Democrats included as being anti-Semitic for saying perfectly rational comments about Israel. What were those comments? I want to talk about the political influence in this country that says it is okay to push for allegiance to a foreign country, Omar said at a progressive town hall with fellow freshman representative Rashida Tlaib. This was in reference to Israel. Omar has been smeared in the past for pointing out facts like this one, like the fact that the Israel lobby spent over $22 million to influence Congress in just the last year. Was that for their health? Was that just for fun? Or could it be that they're trying to achieve an outcome that continues the flow of millions of dollars in military aid to the far-right Israeli government and smearing the critics of that cash flow as anti-Semitic? An outcome that allowed for the first Senate bill that passed in 2019 to be one that punishes critics of Israel. This is the same thing as calling out the influence of the NRA, of big oil donations, of big pharma donations. Representative Omar is calling out money in politics, which is probably what has Congress so shook, because Democrats receive a ton of that pro-Israel money. In fact, they're so shook that they're stabbing Representative Omar in the back, and Nancy Pelosi is leading the charge. House Democrats are again considering a vote on a new resolution condemning anti-Semitism in response to recent comments by Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota that senior members of the party and Jewish groups say play on anti-Semitic tropes. A House Democratic leadership aide said the vote could come as early as Wednesday to condemn her, and yet they are silent when Republican Representative Jim Jordan tweeted this to Representative Jerry Nadler, who is Jewish. Nadler jumps to Tom Steyer's conclusion, replacing the S with a $sign. Steyer, a donor, is Jewish. No, that's actual anti-Semitism, and Democrats aren't going to go after Republican Jim Jordan for his clear anti-Semitism. They're going after Democrats, Ilhan Omar, disingenuously under the guise of caring about anti-Semitism because she's actually trying to change U.S. policy towards Israel. And for the pro-Israel donors, that's what they actually care about. Jim Jordan won't change U.S. policy on Israel. He can't wait to send our taxpayer money to Israel so their far-right government can gun down brown Palestinians in Gaza. But Omar wants to change that, and she's being smeared for it. It's despicable. It makes my blood boil. Thankfully, Representative Ocasio-Cortez came to her defense here. One of the things that is hurtful about the extent to which reprimand is sought of Ilhan is that no one seeks this level of reprimand when members make statements about Latinx and other communities. During the shutdown, a GOP member yelled, "Go back to Puerto Rico" on the floor, Ocasio-Cortez tweeted. Where are the resolutions against homophobic statements, for anti-blackness, for xenophobia, for a member saying he'll send Obama home to Kenya? Look, exactly right. And this reminds me, by the way, when Politico came out with that piece about how Democrats were, quote, exasperated with Ocasio-Cortez, didn't I hear this? I'm sure Ms. Cortez means well, but there's almost an outstanding rule. Don't attack your own people, said Representative Emanuel Cleaver. We just don't need sniping in our Democratic caucus. Except when attacking your own is in the interest of your donors. Defending Israel and the apartheid state that this far-right government has created, I am not against Israel, just Netanyahu and his cronies, is infinite.
Let me show you just one of the attacks that Ilhan Omar was recently faced with. So, Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar likened to 9/11 terrorist in poster at Republican event. And here is that poster. This is some seriously racist bullshit. Now, on the other side of that, do we have Democratic lawmakers coming to Ilhan Omar's defense and being really concerned about these attacks from Republican lawmakers on Ilhan Omar? No. What they're concerned about are her apparent anti-Semitic comments. So here's a headline. Ilhan Omar's contentious comments prompt Democrats to craft anti-Semitism measure. Omar was accused of anti-Semitism for the third time after speaking at a town hall in Washington on Wednesday. Okay, wow, well, what did she say? It must have been really terrible for Democratic lawmakers to come out against one of their own in their party. What did she say? Her latest comments came during a town hall in Washington while speaking about liberal issues. Quote, "I want to talk about the political influence in this country that says it is okay for people to push for allegiance to a foreign country," Omar said. What? This is anti-Semitic? What the hell is wrong with this comment? She's actually speaking on an issue that not enough Democrats, or barely any Democrats, are speaking on. Let me give you an example. Publisher embroiled in legal battle with Arkansas over law banning Israel boycotts. One of more than 25 states to put anti-BDS legislation on the books, Arkansas is a battleground in a conflict that's gone national. So, without boring you with all the details, I will link to this article below the video so you can read the full story. But essentially, a newspaper publisher in Arkansas has lost revenue because they wouldn't sign a loyalty pledge to Israel. This is clearly a violation of the First Amendment. This is against free speech. Yet, somehow Ilhan Omar is being anti-Semitic by pointing out how a law like this is clearly troubling, is clearly unconstitutional. What is the issue here? Now, instead of Democrats coming out and saying, you know what, Ilhan Omar is right. Why should, a publisher like this lose money because they won't sign a loyalty pledge? By the way, there's more examples. There's a woman in Texas who lost her job as a teaching assistant because she also wouldn't sign this loyalty pledge to Israel. But here's an example of what Democrats are saying. So Debbie Wasserman Schultz tweets out, sadly, misunderstandings over anti-Semitic hurtful comments continue, as does hateful Islamophobic rhetoric. Dialogue leads to understanding. Ilhan Omar, repeated misunderstandings would seem to require dialogue to avoid repetitive harm. This is some obvious bullshit. On one hand, you have Republicans comparing Ilhan Omar to a terrorist. On the other side, you have Ilhan Omar speaking truth to power, talking about how there is a serious issue here when you are forcing companies to sign a loyalty pledge to Israel, which is unconstitutional. Somehow these are equal things. Now, I saw one of the greatest tweets of all time in response to this tweet from Debbie Wasserman Schultz. This is a tweet from David Cross, and honestly, yes, it is one of the greatest tweets of all time. Let me read this. You rapacious, moldering, hollow husk of a person. Your knowingly cynical, disingenuous, pandering bullshit take helps no one. You are morally bankrupt and, quite literally, personify everything that's wrong with American politics. Your name will be taught in future history classes. I can't do this tweet justice. This is one of the most amazing tweets I have ever seen. He directly calls out Debbie Wasserman Schultz's bullshit, and really the bullshit of the entire Democratic Party at this point, that is, for some reason, again, aligned against Ilhan Omar, who is speaking truth to power, who is bringing up a serious issue that should be dealt with.
Because it's lacking. People like you don't have representation. Well, what happens? She gets to Congress, speaks out, and then everyone tells her to shut up. It's disgusting. So, understand, Democrats are jumping on this bandwagon specifically because they don't want to offend one of their biggest donors, AIPAC. That's what this is about. It's not about whether or not they care about anti-Semitism. They don't care about that. They care about getting that money from AIPAC, which is not a representative of the average Jewish American or Jewish person. It's an organization that lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government and their geopolitical dominance in the Middle East and North Africa, and it isn't bankrolled by Jewish people at large. It's also funded by American oligarchs and evangelicals. So to say that AIPAC is a synonym for Jewish person is deeply offensive. As Katie Halper says, it's a trope in and of itself, but that's what they're using to shut down debate with regard to this issue. So there's just absolutely no room for nuance here. You can't have a thorough discussion here, a genuine debate about ideas. It's all a dog pile on Ilhan Omar to tell her to shut up. And what Democrats don't realize is the same individuals, the fake feminists like Nancy Pelosi, who claim to care about women, what they're doing here with this resolution to condemn Ilhan Omar is paving the way for and legitimizing attacks like this.
I'm going to say it. She is filth. She has no place in the Congress. She has no place on the Foreign Affairs Committee. It's outrageous that Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, the most powerful Democrat in America, appears on Rolling Stone hand in hand with her smiling this week. It's outrageous.
That was Donald Trump's campaign advisor calling one of the first Muslim women elected to Congress filth. Not even hiding their racism. And this is the exact types of attacks that Democrats who are dogpiling on Ilhan Omar rather than defending her against harassment and hate are currently legitimizing. So they should all be coming to her defense after seeing what she has to put up with, the harassment and whatnot, but because she threatens the status quo by having a conversation about a topic that has previously been taboo, well, they don't even care how it looks. They want to get her to shut up. Sorry, we don't care if you've been harassed and if you have death threats written on the gas stations in your district. We just want you to shut up and not talk about this issue because it's inconvenient for us and it may offend one of our biggest donors. It's absolutely despicable, and I just want Ilhan Omar to know that real progressives, we actually do stand with you, and we appreciate everything that you're doing because you're not just fighting for American people, but you're having to put up with something that few lawmakers have had to deal with, in American history, and it's heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking, and I truly feel for her, and she's got to be protected at all costs because I worry about her safety, and I worry that Democrats don't even care that they're fanning the flames at this point. Disgusting.